Everybody's talking. Phil Brooks, CM Punk, Randy Orton, AEW, WWE, Cyber Monday. Maybe you got some Amazon Prime or some gift card money laying around. You're disappointed about Napoleon like I was. Well, forget about all of that because our guest tonight is a champion. He is a champion of a company that has a huge show coming up. We're going to talk about that this weekend. And he's also become a staple in another company that we always talk about here, and they're getting ready to end their season and get ready for some big shows coming up. This man needs no introduction, but because he is a Salisbury psychopath and he's got a lot to get off his chest. And if you saw our announcement on Facebook and Instagram where hundreds upon hundreds of people watched that clip, this is one a lot of people are waiting, and we are going to get to it and do a punch, a Monday night punch, not a Thursday night thunder punch, but a Monday night thunder punch for our guest. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show. He is the EBW Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion. And he is from dominant Breakout Wrestling. They call him the Salisbury Psychopath Jackson. My friend, how are you?
I am honestly doing great with that amazing intro. As always, Grant, I can say that your choice of guests aren't exactly up to snuff in my personal experience. But
well, let's talk about that because I've been doing this for 5 years right now.
Really?
I've been doing this for 5 years. I've had on New York State senators. I've had on Major League Baseball players who are in a Hall of Fame. I've had World Series champions. I've had on wrestlers. In fact, one of them coming up next Tuesday for round 2, who wrestled in Impact Wrestling. My guest coming up Thursday, the natural-born fighter, R.P. Davis, has not 1, not 2, but 3, but 4 championships technically. He's got 3 championships and a trophy in the UK. I mean, what would you say if all those things here, sir, you come on here and say that guests haven't been up to par when I've got probably, arguably, maybe the most impressive roster, I would dare say.
Well, these are more in recent memory. I'm obviously not crapping on anybody's repertoire because obviously they have the stats to prove it, but unfortunately there are 2 names that just leave me sick to my stomach that I know that I've been on this show.
Okay, all right. So, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I like it. I like the bandana. I like to have somebody that might actually have longer hair than me. So I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you a pass. So for those that are listening and watching here, sir, who are those 2 individuals that you may have some contention with?
Well, the first one is, honestly, from what I saw here for some reason, a fan favorite, the last Bone Shaker, Robert Pearson.
Interesting. Yes, that individual was on here, and I have some thoughts on that. He was on here maybe about a month or so ago, just about. So, okay, fine. So that's one. We'll get to him in a second. And may I ask, who is the second individual, sir?
Oh, that is simple. He is a man who simply does not know when to shut up. Either he's gotten lost sipping on the Kool-Aid of his supposed greatness, or it's sad to say it's a medical thing. Cyrus does not know
when the Factor. The global champion.
Yeah, whatever he wants to call himself nowadays.
You certainly wanted a crack at that. So you know what? For those that are listening and watching, I mean, what is your issue with the It Factor, Cyrus? Now, obviously, when he was here, you had some things to say. And certainly for those that are watching, especially if you watched Thursday Night Thunder Punches, where you can on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, you wanted a shot at the It Factor, Cyrus, but something happened along the way that I'm sure you have some disagreements on.
Oh, you've got no idea. Let me just break it down. Like, first off, the ref, like, I mean, I don't know if he was blind, stupid, or was paid off, but
I think the
everybody,
old adage used to be blind, deaf, and dumb. I think that was the old. I'm trying to think what band
well,
used to
he's
sing that.
probably all
Blind,
three and more, but but you saw, like, right before it hit 3, you saw that I kicked out. You could go on Thunder Punch. You can.
Yeah, I knew this was coming, and it's funny you said that because I watched the match before we went on the air, maybe about 2 or so hours ago, give or take, and it did kind of look like you might have kicked out, but
Might
walk
have.
me through that. Well,
I'm sorry, might have?
the referee though counted to 3, so I'm kind of going to ask you in terms of what's going on through your mind because I'm not the referee. The referee counted to 3. Now, it might have seemed you kicked out before that, but walk me through what's going in through your head at that moment because I'm not the referee. The referee counted to 3. So tell us your vantage point, what happened.
My vantage point was, Van Hansen rolls me up. I hear the 1, 2. I'm still a little loopy. I will admit, getting a face full of steel chair does that to you. But I've heard the 1, 2, and I pop my shoulder up. But this, I know, I don't want to get you taken down. I'm going to be polite to you. This ref did not do his job properly, and he proceeded to cost me my match for the global championship.
And certainly after the match, you certainly had some frustrations out there. You got into the face.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, that's certainly up for debate, but I would ask you in terms of, what if in the record books though, right? Let's go with the record books. The record book says it goes to 3. I mean, what are you looking for in terms of to change the outcome? What are you expecting? Because unfortunately, I can't change it for you. I'm not in management and I'm not the referee.
Main thing that I'm asking for,
it's up to the DBW universe and the galaxy there. What do they think?
The main thing that I want is reparations. Like, if I lost, I lost. But at the same time, I want a chance to prove what I'm saying is the truth. That I was able to kick out, that Van Hansen cannot beat me. He will not ever beat me again. And after I am done with him, who knows?
Okay, so let's talk about this. I have a ton of comments. I'll get to comments. I see people are tuning in. I'm going to plug.
Oh boy, here we go.
Social media.
What do these Mongoloids want?
I'm going to plug DBW in a second. But, you're the second wrestler I've had on here in the last 48 hours that has been upset with an outcome of a match. And it's the second wrestler that is upset because they were denied an opportunity to compete for a championship. So I understand that point. But, I mean, realistically speaking, in the record books, right? The record book says that you lost this match. The guest that I had on 48 hours ago wanted a petition. He wanted to appeal to his company's authority to change the outcome. Obviously, their commissioner ignored it. What are you looking for here on this show to change that outcome, to convince management in DBW that you should get another crack at being the number 1 contender to that global championship?
Well, in all honesty, because I have tried talking to the room of chimpanzees known as DBW management, but unfortunately, they seem to be worried about where they're getting their next banana and not what to do with the fresh talent that they have. So, in all honesty, if I can't go in through actual justice, I'll fight my way back to the top. It's fine. Put me in front of T3. Put me in front of Jacob Cassidy. Put me in front of Robert Pearson. I'll mow them down.
I'm going to certainly get to that in a second. Okay, fine.
I'll mow down any person that I have to get what is rightfully mine.
All right. Well, you know what? I like the attitude. I like the swagger. I'll give you that because part of me says, now I'm not in management, so it's not my decision. If it was up to me, I might agree with you. But the reality of it is that you've only come in here and been in DBW for a short amount of time. You might be labeled to some as a new kid on the block. somebody here that maybe hasn't in DBW had that kind of success or that kind of experience that warrants you maybe another crack or maybe a reversal of this outcome. So there's a very likely possibility, Mr. Sabre, that you're going to have to fight like a Salisbury psychopath and show why you might also be a saber-tooth tiger and run through some of these names you mentioned, maybe to get a crack at that global championship.
I mean, like I said, I tried to do it the nice way. I tried talking, but evidently people don't want to talk. They just want to fight. They want to see people fight. They want to see people get hurt. And well, you want somebody to get hurt, I'm the guy you need to go to. Yeah, you're right. I'm only been in DBW for a short while.
Cup of coffee.
Yet they've already had enough sense to put me where I belong, in the runnings for a title picture, in the runnings for whatever title they deem fit. So that really begs the question, is it due to a lack of experience or is it due to natural talent?
Well, that's a question that management would certainly have to answer. I'll come back to that, but I'm going to get to some comments here because I have a lot of them, and I'd like to at least tell people. Let's bring them on. First of all, I'll start out nicely. I want to say hello to my buddy all the way out there in Australia, 1:16 p.m. there in Australia. He is the host of the Wired Up podcast. He is also a part of a company called Backyard Wrestling Down Under. His name is Mr. Ace Reed, and he says good day. And
good day, sir.
Well. Yeah. He's in Australia, by the way. God bless Mr. Ace Reed. He's always usually like my first comment or my second comment on these shows. And we had him on last Friday, but he had some technical difficulties. But we hope to get him back on here, I think, next weekend. But stay tuned for more details. Mr. Pearson wants to say a couple things. He says, first of all, I bet Jackson Sabre doesn't like beans. And he also calls you
where he gets that from.
And he calls you Mr. Subaru. Now, Mr. Subaru, what's that about?
That was because of a very snot-nosed ring announcer deciding to purposefully get my name wrong.
Oh, yes.
Heard about it. But let's just say I taught him a lesson and I'm moving on to bigger and better things. But unfortunately, like a hangnail, this guy just doesn't want to let it go.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I mean, obviously, that's a conversation for another time. Speaking of the other half of Chaos Conspiracy.
I hate these guys so much.
Okay, so why do you hate these guys? Why do you hate Chaos Conspiracy? Robert Pearson.
Well, to go a little memory lane down, Jacob Cassidy and I weren't always neck and neck, because you saw in our Fatal 4-Way at Thunder Punch, before everybody was even out to the ring, we were already nose to nose, ready to kill each other.
Correct.
And that's due to past affiliations. Jackson Sabre and Jacob Cassidy is a feud that goes from EBW to DBW, Unfortunately, I don't know how many times I've kicked this guy's ass, but he just seems to keep hanging on, looking like Randy Marsh. I ain't hear no bell when there have been multiple bells.
Okay, fair enough here. All right, so I'll certainly come back to some of that. I just want to work my way through some of these comments. Omen Black of the IMF here wants to say, I bet that room smells like beans. I'm not quite sure what he's talking about there. But
probably piggybacking off these other idiots.
Yeah, and he goes on here and says, I don't know how his locker room feels on the subject, but he has a very punchable face. And he also says, weren't you DVG's fill in the blanks? Wait, no, you were Newman's lapdog. Okay, I'll come back to some of that.
Newman's lapdog. You know what? I actually want to jump in on this for a second.
Sure. Okay.
You're right. Yeah, I was a teammate of Newman's in Violence Unhinged, and yet look where I am now and look where he is. He had to run to another group because of his fading, what's the word I'm looking for? Fading relevancy. That's what it is. His fading relevancy, he had to latch on to somebody else, while his two if he wants to call them teammates, whatever, underlings, whatever the hell he wants to call us, it's his lie. He can tell it however he wants. Myself and infamous Montana Fatale, we broke away because he took his ball and ran. We became something better. We became Golden, the longest reigning tag team champions of the modern era in EBW.
And you hold gold currently in EBW.
Exactly. And yet, so tell me, who's bitch, Omen?
Well, but Omen, though, to be fair, I mean, he's pretty relevant, though, these days. You don't think that the IMF is relevant? You don't think that them
Oh,
having a
no, I'm
large...
not saying that. I'm just telling him to get his facts straight.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's a different discussion from relevancy. Okay. I just want to make sure I don't have to get my ears checked.
Oh,
I'll
no,
come
no.
back.
Relevancy is just due to Newman. Him,
Okay. Yeah,
I've
I
got
was going to
nothing
say,
personal with
because
him.
I want to make sure that, we're on the same page. I figured that, but we'll move on. Thank you, Omen, for tuning in. We'll see Omen later in the week here live in your chair. But Big Tech, speaking of people who are big, he says, Sabre, big man to big man. I'm ready to face these.
Oh, big text. That's cute. That's cute. Can we move on to the next comment, please, for somebody that's actually serious?
All right, so I won't even go any further. But somebody that you did address the last time he was here, that is the global champion himself, who you also spoke about, the It Factor Cyrus, and he says, well, it's Jackson Sabre whining as always. Your response.
Well. It's Cyrus who's back cracked more than a glow
I should have
stick.
did that. I tell you real quick, I should have did that in my Joel Gertner voice, but I was like, I didn't think of it at that moment.
But yeah, you're right. You want to talk about whining, and yet you whined and whined for a championship match, yet you couldn't even beat the former champion. You had to win a tournament. So
yeah, but he's got the gold though.
Okay, and Jay White had the AEW belt for weeks. That doesn't mean he was the real champ.
But he actually is in the record books, though. The real global champion. There's a difference.
But however you want to slice it, I still see him as a paper champion. But that's neither here nor there. That's a discussion for another time.
Okay, so obviously you've got your situation. He's got his situation. So I'm sure we'll come back to that. Omen likes to say hello to Cyrus. And then Mr. Pearson says, Cyrus is here. I'll come back to that. Mr. Cassidy, though, says, boo, go back to the nursing home, Cyrus. And Jackson Sabre, I'll step up. I've beat you once before. I'll do it again, big man. Your response.
Listen, you Applejack from you cinnamon stick from Applejack's looking string bean. All right, first off, why don't you grow some actual facial hair before you talk to me? Second of all, name the time and place. I don't care if it's DBW, EBW, hell, I'll drive up to your house and we can do this in your front yard. I don't care.
Well, do you know where Mr. Cassidy happens to live? Now, don't tell us his address, but do you?
Oh, no. Yeah, I know where he lives.
Oh, you do?
I know where he lives, but it's all about if I want to inconvenience myself enough to go out to that little podunk trailer park that he lives in.
Oh, okay. So you have an idea, but basically you're not going to go there just yet for his point. Okay, so you know what? I'll certainly come back to that. I want to say hello to my buddy Ron out in the state of Pennsylvania. Good evening.
Good evening, Ron.
How you doing, buddy? Big Tex, though, says, sir, you put some respect behind me. You might be a champion, but guess what? I can still lift you. Now, do you think that Big Tex could lift you, though? Because you're a big man.
I'm not going to deny Big Tex's size. I understand that size does matter, no matter how much anybody wants to say it doesn't. But in wrestling, it does. But unfortunately, Tex, you're biting off more than you can chew, buddy. So I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can. You do not want this. Stick with Graves. Stick to the minnows that you're used to. And why don't you actually wait until you start wading into the deep end?
Interesting words. And now we got a chance in the Anarchy Championship situation. We saw you and Azriel kind of go toe to toe, and that was interesting. Now that was kind of maybe what a sign of things to come could be like when it be you and Big Tex. And Big Tex, by the way, wants to say, bring it on. So he just wants to bring it on. So he's not. As for Cyrus has got a lot to say, and I'm going to try to read it off because, well, that's what I'm here to do. Omen, just take a seat and watch greatness. Do what he does best. Jackson Sabre, when you're done thinking you're worthy and capable of going bell to bell with me, then just maybe I'll give you a shot. Now, I'm not so much concerned about Mr. Omen and Mr. Cyrus. I'll let those two guys figure that out. I'll let them flip a coin and maybe see if it's heads or tails. But that last part there about you, sir, that's what I'm curious about on your reaction.
I mean, that's all I've been asking. A chance to prove that I am the future of DBW. I am the future of the global championship. And obviously, the end of my match was on some funny business. So I just want what anybody wants, a fair chance to prove that I can go bell to bell, a chance that I can and will become a great champion in DBW. But unfortunately, somebody has been ducking under the so-called greatness of the memoir of Cyrus. It's not a book yet, but I guess we'll have to see where it goes. I am open. I am waiting. All it matters is if he can get out of the curtain long enough for me to whip his ass.
Interesting words here. And I'd like to take a minute to plug our friends, though, first of all, on DBW, because you can check them out on Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling, YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, where they have well over 3,000 plus subscribers, and they have shows in the thousands of views, even recent shows like Danger Zone, Thursday Night Thunder Punch, Episode 9, 8, of course, the historic World War Show, and follow them on Twitter as well at DBW Wrestling. And if you want to check out our buddy here, Mr. Jackson Sabre, the Salisbury Psychopath, YouTube, Jackson Sabre, TikTok, Jackson_Sabre. I'm just actually starting to figure out to plug TikTok because I don't have TikTok yet. So now I'm trying to incorporate that in plugs. And on Instagram at official_Jackson_Sabre. And also, I got to give myself a plug because we have a brand new website here on Sportswire Radio where we put here on the calendar Mr. Sabre's appearance here. You can check us out anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on sportswireradio.org. And if you have a podcast, if you want a music request, if you want anything in the rotation, all you have to do is let us know and let the man know here himself, the man that owns Sportswire Radio and runs it, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And we also have a new blog where we put up some updates on releases, our Hall of Fame, different things like that. You can check us out here on Tumblr. But I'll come back to more plugs. But let me get to some comments here because the Bone Shaker has got something to say to you. I'll come back to Omen in a second.
God.
Yep. He got something to say to you, and I want to let the audience know about it. I still have a beef with you, Sabre. You put sugar in my gas tank. I don't care if it's for the Hoax Championship or just in a regular one-on-one, non-stop, never stop combat match. The Bone Shaker will knock you down a few notches. What do you say to that?
Oh, I only have one question. It's the only one that matters. Pearson, who did I pin to win this belt?
Robert Pearson?
Exactly. So that says all. That's all I need to say on the Bone Shakers Challenge.
All right, let me ask you a question on that, actually. Let me ask you a follow-up on Mr. Pearson. Okay, so Mr. Pearson, as I'm sure you're aware of, came on the show, right? And we were talking about his situation with Cyrus, how he wanted a handshake from Cyrus, and Cyrus didn't shake his hand. Now, I'm going to ask your objective opinion. As a big man yourself, as a guy that certainly likes to throw his weight around and certainly pulls no punches. Now, do you think, though, that maybe in a way, though, Mr. Pearson's a little bit misguided in the fact that he thinks that wrestlers, especially wrestlers, despite what some may say, including yourself, like Cyrus who have gold, is actually going to go about it and actually want to shake somebody's hand that he just beat and goes about it in a way that's a totally different one than, let's say, someone like yourself or even Mr. Cyrus?
I can't speak on other champions, but the only respect that I'll give you if I beat you and you try to shake my hand afterwards, it's just a nod. Like, you got your ass kicked, acknowledge it, but I'm not going to be the one to acknowledge it for you. I'm just looking straight ahead to my path towards immortality and greatness in the wrestling world.
Well, we'll see in DBW. Obviously, that jury is to be up for discussion on that. There's still the verdict has not been given. Certainly in EBW, you have had some success, no question. DBW will have to stay tuned. Let me get to some more comments because people really want to talk. So let me do that here. So let me get to Omen and Cyrus first before I turn into you and Cyrus. Omen, who's the boogeyman of the Midwest. That's kind of funny because when I was growing up in Brooklyn, we used to always think there was the boogeyman, and the boogeyman would come out, and Omen might be the boogeyman. But I grew up in Brooklyn, so there was a lot of boogeymen, so we were kind of used to that. Brooklyn, New York, it was, certainly an interesting life that I had growing up. That's why I'm here. It was an interesting. I had interesting experiences. Certainly there was many boogeymen that we would have to encounter, but those were different days, different times. Omen is here, and he's the boogeyman of the Midwest. And he would like to say, Cyrus, whatever comes out of your mouth, old man, is cheaper than the dentures that you have in your mouth.
I agree.
Okay, well, you know what? I don't know about what people have in their mouths. I'm going to leave it to those people's mouths because I only want to hear what's in the comment section. So when you're ready to step up to me, Cyrus, you know where to find me, and I know where to find you. Interesting. Omen knows where to find Cyrus, and he says Cyrus knows where to find him. Mr. Black is going to be here on Sportswire Radio in a few days. I'm just saying that there's a number of people that may want to have a conversation with Mr. Black when he makes his long-awaited return to Sportswire Radio. Just saying. But Mr. Pearson, we got to already, and Mr. Black also says, riding the coattails of true competition. Now, let's come back to Mr. Cassidy. Not me, so where my challenge?
Listen, boo-boo, if you want to get your ass kicked that badly, that's fine, but unfortunately, I have bigger things to deal with right now in EBW. So after this whole business is settled, I'll entertain you. All right? I'll give the puppy his bone if that's what he wants.
Okay, so I'm actually going to do something here for the audience because I'm going to actually remind people here, or maybe break it, depending on who's seen it or who's heard it, depending on where you've stood and where you've watched shows on Sportswire Radio. When it comes to Mr. Pearson and Mr. Cassidy, I've got an announcement for them, sir, that you might want to know about. Wednesday afternoon in your chair, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern time, we have some thorns in Mr. Pearson and Mr. Cassidy's side. The Stompers. That's right, the Stompers. In Mr. Blade and Mr. Blanco. Rob Blade, Richie Blanco, they're going to be here live on Sportswire Radio on our platforms a little after 3 p.m. Eastern time. Something tells me here they're going to be talking about the success that they have had against Chaos Conspiracy. They're going to talk about the things that they've done in DBW. They're aligned with Mr. Thomas Taft, Mr. T3 himself, where they formed High Power. And I have a feeling there that Mr. Pearson and Mr. Cassidy might be worried more so about Mr. Blade and Mr. Blanco maybe than you, sir. Is that a fair statement for me to make?
Honestly, it's not up to me to decide what their priorities are. I mean, if they can't handle, albeit they are great talent, I will give them that. The Stompers, Rob Blade and Richie Blanco.
Hey, no, EBW tag team champions. They've been tag team champions.
Exactly, and that's why I will give them their flowers on that. I'm not going to say who they need to worry about more. I'm just saying whoever they do decide to worry about might be best to have eyes in the back of your head because you never know what happens in wrestling.
Well, I just know that, listen, in my opinion, Chaos Conspiracies definitely had some roadblocks. The Stompers have been a big part of that. The Stompers have been the ones that have had gold. The Stompers have been the ones that show that they're a premier tag team, not just in DBW or EBW, but up and down the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. And it's going to be a real treat to speak with the Stompers. And you're going to definitely want to tune in here on the YouTube channel of Sportswire Radio, which I'm actually going to do a favor here to everybody and plug, because if you haven't subscribed to my page, I would hope that you would, because I'm on YouTube at Sportswire Radio, 6579 backspace stream. So check us out here. Also, check out my new website, which I built on my own, did it all through scratch.
Congratulations.
Well, I've done it before, but I just forgot how to do it, so it took me like 2 years.
Still, you like to congratulate people when they accomplish something.
Well, certainly not as much success I've had as you, sir, but I appreciate the kind words here. But yes, you can check us out here a little after 3 o'clock on those platforms, sportswireradio.org via the Watch Now or the Listen Live button, or you can check us out on YouTube. So let's come back to some more comments here. I've got a ton of them, and I want to get back to them. So Cyrus wants to say, paper champ with a question mark, not a paper champ. I seek the ultimate opportunity, unlike you and anyone else in this company. I capitalized on the moment, and now you're graced with the greatest global champ ever. What do you say?
First off, you're not the greatest champion of all time. You're not. And I'm sorry, the fact that you think you are is applaudable for having such great self-confidence, but there's a fine line between self-confidence and full-on delusion.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, Cyrus has been somebody that has had a lot of success in this sport. He's been a world champion. He's been a champion so many times in so many different promotions. I mean, we spoke about it here on this show when he came here the first time. If you would put together a Mount Rushmore in DBW history, he's on there. I mean, he's really one of the founding fathers of this company. He's really one of the guys that's laid the foundation where we see thousands of subscribers, where we went from being into the backyard to basically being on the verge of being an independent wrestling company that has this massive following that's pretty much no one's rivaled. I mean, certainly we had the people in Tennessee, certainly the people in Iowa have followings, but their companies are a little different than what we have here in DBW. I mean, Cyrus, in a lot of ways, I think he's entitled to talk about the success that he's had because, again, very few people that we've encountered have had this kind of success that this individual has had.
Yeah, I will give him that. Yes, he has been a multiple-time champion, but like the old saying goes, out with the old, in with the new. You're right. There is a Mount Rushmore of DBW, and Cyrus might definitely be on that if you ask the right fan. But at the same time, there is a wave of change going through DBW. I'm sure you've seen it. Younger, hungrier talent coming to overtake
the
top guys.
the World Extreme Champion. Listen, the World Extreme Champion was just dethroned. I mean, you're not wrong.
Exactly. Whether that's Jackson Snow, whether that's I swear I want to puke every time I say this guy's name. Even Robert Pearson and Jacob Cassidy. I'm sorry. I'm not going to try to.
Well, you'd be better off mentioning somebody like a Thomas Taft. You might be better off mentioning the Heretics who have tag team goals.
Yes, that's actually very true, and including our own DBW World Champion, Mr. Judgment.
Oh, Mr. Judgment, of course, a man that when he speaks, the world listens. When Mr. Judgment speaks, it's almost like a state of the nation. It's a state of the DBW nation. You know, people will talk about the president's state of the nation, but when DBW's champion, Mr. Judgment, speaks, our final boss, we basically shut our mouths and we let the champion speak. There is no one like Mr. Judgment with his moveset, his skills, and even his own family recognizes that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, geez, that amount of discipline, I don't think I'd leave my room for a month.
Well, if it was my case growing up, it probably would have been a whole year because I probably should have got that discipline growing up because I probably would have been a lot better off in life. Hey, at least I'm here. At least I'm alive. At least I've had enough success to continue to thrive on Sportzwire Radio. But the point is, if Mr. Judgment was my father, I'd probably be having a year's worth of discipline. But hey, that's here nor there. That's why Mr. Judgment's offspring may not be having the kind of success that he should be, but Mr. Judgment certainly is our champion. Let me get to a ton of more comments because people want to talk, and I want to let them talk. Big Tex wants to say, Sabre, listen to me. If it's you, Cyrus, or even the world champion, Mr. Judgment, I've come to prove myself. I've partially done that against many others in DBW, but I've yet to really prove myself. What do you say to that?
Key word, partially.
Okay, tell me why.
Big Tex has the tools. I will admit that. Does he have the tools to be a monster in this business? He does. I will not deny that. I'll admit I'm an asshole, but I'm honest. All right. I will admit.
Yeah, I'm kind of warming up to you. I got to be honest. We started interesting when you kind of talked about guests, but I'm kind of warming up to you. I got to be honest. I'm kind of liking you right now. So go ahead.
All right. See, yeah, like I said, Big Tex does have the tools to become a monster in this business, but unfortunately, I believe it's due to multiple different factors. Like I said, one, it's obviously his self-confidence because he says he's yet to prove himself. So either A, he doesn't believe that he can, or B, he has higher expectations for himself, which I don't mind. Another one is the people that he surrounds himself with.
Yes.
Obviously, like,
Mr.
You want to know what I see when I see Big Tex, Chaos Conspiracy, and Graves?
Yes, Mr. Graves, yeah. Mr. Corey Graves,
I see 45-pound dumbbells chained to Big Tex's ankles, hindering him.
You see dead weight hanger-ons.
Exactly. I see a bright young star being shackled down by the has-beens that want to hang on to his rocket as he flies off the grid.
And don't you think, sir, the argument could be made that Mr. Graves, who has not had the kind of success this year, and he's been somebody that has had success in the past, that maybe he's that quintessential example or definition.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell me why.
I mean, let's be honest. What's the last thing that Graves has done that's actually been mention worthy outside of hey, he's taking Big Tech's under his wing. But let's be honest. Until Big Tech's, I never heard of Corey Graves. So I've never heard of Graves.
This year you wouldn't have heard of Corey Graves in DBW.
Yeah, you're right. I misspoke. I apologize. But even then, Graves is just fading away. He's trying to grasp.
He's that irrelevant person that you were speaking of, about the relevancy. You talked about relevancy tonight. And basically the problem with Mr. Graves is that he's become irrelevant. He's become somebody that needs to hang on to somebody that could be in someone like a Big Tech.
Exactly. See, we're on the same wavelength, all right? I feel like you're the one smart individual in this sea of idiots who gets what I'm talking about.
Well, I think at this point, as somebody who watches a lot of DBW, I speak with wrestlers all over the world at this point, whether it's in the UK, whether it's across the United States, whether it's in Australia, whether it's obviously here in DBW. I kind of have a sense, or as I was told by one wrestler, I kind of have an eye on the ball. I have a good eye, as some might say.
You have more than one good eye on the ball. You got both of them.
Well, I hope to continue to keep those two eyes. And also, I want to say hello to another beautiful woman out there from Brooklyn, New York, listening to us, Mrs. Zena. Miss Zena is listening to us. She's enjoying the comments. She's enjoying me try to figure out how to pronunciate all these different names. And she's looking at all these different wrestlers. And I keep trying to tell her, this is what you should be doing, watching me every single night. Because if you don't see me in person, this is where you need to be live on Sportswire Radio and give all the wrestlers here a follow, because these are the people that make it all happen here. But I say hello to you, and I hope you're doing well. But let me get to a bunch of more comments here, because people want to talk. And enough about me. Big Ron, who's always with us. Big Ron, one of my biggest fans out there, biggest supporters. And he says a whole lot of beef in here. Yeah, I don't think I've had this much beef literally like on my plate or here on Sportswire in like a month. But here we go. But Mr. Pearson would want to say here, I'll be watching Omen. I'll be watching. Interesting. Big Tech says, I'll be watching that closely. I think he's talking about the Stompers, because I'm excited about the Stompers, by the way. You know the Stompers very, very well. And Mr. Pearson also said, and the Stompers, I really have a feeling this is one, and I'm not just saying it because we love DBW. I'm telling you, this one, you will not want to miss. In fact, it's such an exciting show for me to have the Stompers. I'm doing it even in the afternoon. I would rather do it in prime time.
See, even the ugly mutt that is Robert Pearson is excited about the Stompers being on here. So why aren't you?
Because the Stompers have beaten him a few times. Maybe he wants to kind of see the lay of the land and see what the Stompers have to say about him and Mr. Cassidy, maybe.
It's just going to be cute to see him in this comments. Babbling off like a little Pomeranian. It's going to be funny.
That was a good one.
I mean, he looks like a Pomeranian.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that because my mutton chops are probably longer than like the state of Hawaii at this point. So I'm certainly going to, not
no, but see, you actually pull it off.
5 years.
Not so much.
I've literally grown the facial hair, which I actually have been having this conversation with people. I've actually grown the facial hair just about as long as I've been doing this. In fact, if you go on my website, sportswireradio.org, cheap plug, if you go down in the gallery, you will see the last time I did not have these mutton chops, which was just over 5 years ago. So if you want to check out an old memory of me, you can actually do that. But Mr. Black says, Bone Shaker, I hope you pay close attention. Okay, let's come back to Mr. Cyrus. All of you, whether it's you, Pearson, Cassidy, that big B-word text, or the one-trick pony, Omen Black, will become a chapter in the book of Cyrus. Now, Cyrus says he's in the middle of writing the new chapter, so... But
the thing that he doesn't know is my chapter will be the conclusion. That's what he doesn't seem to get.
Interesting.
It's a short book, but while some people may view it as great, it's just a short story of a withered, tired has-been.
But he's got the gold, though, at the end of the day. There's very few people in this sport.
Yeah, I appreciate that he wants to go down swinging his sword, but at the end of the day, like the Old West, there's always a faster gun, whether it's sooner or later.
Maybe so, but he's the one that knows the tricks to stay on top. He's the guy that's redeemed himself. He's the guy that's rejuvenated right now. He's the guy that's been able to, kind of to quote our guest on Saturday, the trendsetter Alan Michaels, he's been the guy that's been able to stay trendy. He's the guy that's got the gold. And everybody here, and most people here in these comments, would like to be in the It Factor Cyrus's position right now with gold.
Well, like you said earlier, Cyrus is on the, would be on a lot of people's DBW Mount Rushmore. But at the end of the day, that's just better prey for a better hunt. Well, I mean, you gotta think. I say you see a lion's pride, normal lions, but then you see that one, and maybe it's a different shade than the other lions. Maybe it's Scar to Mufasa.
Well, I'll actually
you want to go after the different. You want to go after the
metaphors. I'll make it very simple. I'll make it very simple, especially for those old rock fans. It's almost like, and I can't believe I'm quoting this. It's the Procol Harum, the Procol Harum song "Whiter Shades of Pale." That's basically what you're trying to tell us here. The whiter shades of pale. So there you go. There you have it. I have got a lot more comments. You can't even read. How ironic you have a book. Be honest, old man. It's an audio book or a picture book for your old eyes. Wow.
Omen, I think you and I could get along very well.
Well, he's going to be with us. He's going to be in the chair. I think it's either Friday night or Saturday night. So he's going to be here. And Omen has got a lot to say. He's got a lot of people to address. And you might want to tune into that one here on Sportzwire Radio's YouTube page. You know what? You should. I hope that a lot of people should tune in, because I think that Omen will always be a very, very interesting guest and interesting segment, because it is his show after all. Name the time and place, Cyrus. Well, you might have to get in the back of the line. It's a Bone Shaker World Tour, ABG. Okay.
Pearson, are you sniffing those funny funguses again?
I guess the tour is. We'll hit. You ready for a joke? That I'm done. Is the tour coming to an empty venue near you?
Hey, I'm not even going to comment on that. You did it for me. Thank you.
I know it's funny. Well, people used to always tell me, you should be in stand-up comedy. And my running joke used to be, well, when you knock on 15,000 doors one year in an election, you pretty much learn to be able to kind of laugh at almost anything, including yourself. So that's here nor there. But Bone Shaker, one day soon. Okay, more comments here, because I am way behind here. And Deadweight Chaos Conspiracy. No, it's sportsmanship, and Graves is all respect. Your response.
Respect, Tex. All right. But go back to what I said earlier.
Yes.
When's the last time Graves has done anything important before teaming up with you? I will admit, yes, he's had his flowers in DBW. He's somebody that's noticeably talked about. But at the end of the day, he's still just there. He just doesn't feel like he's a dominant force anymore. And so he sees said dominant force in Big Tex.
Yeah, I think
this guy paved my way back to the top. Either if Big Tex wins the world title by any chance, congratulations. But Tex, if I'm going to give you any advice, please listen to this. You don't need them. They need you. But I can't make that choice for you, kid. You got to learn to take the shackles off yourself.
Well, you know what? Very well, maybe that is the point. Could it be a veteran, a guy that's been to the top but wants to get back to the top, in a Corey Graves using Big Tex, who might be gullible? I don't know.
Continue.
I don't know. It's certainly up for debate. But Big Tex here has more comments. Cyrus, I've given you opportunity to come get a big piece of Big Tex, and yet you run away and hide behind Judgment. Whoa. Is Cyrus in Judgment, though? What's that about? What do you see there? Because I watched Thunder Punch. I watched the premium shows, and all I saw was, I guess, maybe a nod and sort of a sign of mutual respect between Judgment and Cyrus, but nothing else.
I think it's a callback to when Cyrus and God's true son, Mr. Judgment, were a tag team known as the Dark Brotherhood.
Yes, and that was referred upon here. But there's been a lot of history since then that really hasn't shown that they've really been aligned in any way, in any capacity.
I don't know. Maybe Big Tex is mixing up his words. Maybe he sees some imaginary ghost that isn't there that's stopping him from being from beating Judgment and becoming the monster that I know he can be. But at the end of the day, but like I said, he's got more things on his plate he needs to worry about.
Well, you know what? I guess that might be something to investigate, as some may want to investigate in the paranormal world. Kind of like the lovely Xena here tuning in, who wants to investigate the paranormal world. Maybe Big Tex can investigate the paranormal world. And Omen wants to confirm and remind me it's Friday. I thought it was Friday, but I want to make sure at this point because, and this is not a slight on anybody, I think I've literally been on Sportswire Radio like every day for the past like 10 days. You know, there was a period of time for like a month that I was almost like not on Sportswire so much. So now I'm basically making up for it and some. So I appreciate that for you reminding me. But somebody else you know very well who was the EBW World Champion, I believe still is. And his name, yes, you know him very well, so I don't have to say any further. He's a part of a group called Ego, which seems to be splintering. I mean, there's certainly really seem to be not so much left of Ego these days. But he says, yep. Well, he's got a couple of comments, so I'm going to read them off and then tell you what you want to say on it. Hey, Tom, how are you? Omen, before you talk on Pearson, do your research. He's a hell of a young talent. And then he also says, what's up?
Nothing much, AJ. Nothing much. But aside from, like I said, young wolf is hungry. Wants to find his prey and wants to stake his territory. So I wish you a very speedy recovery.
Yes.
But yeah, I think he could actually answer this a lot better than I could about ego splintering. But that's
you know what? I will tell you this much. You can expect you'll have somebody from that group in the month of December on Sportswire. I don't know when, but I promise you that there will be some talk about that because Ego really is in an interesting position. They've kind of fallen by the wayside. To me right now, it's groups like High Power that seem to be up there with Divinity. I mean, we're going to certainly talk about
when you look at whether it's Solidarity to Splintered, there are, Ego's on the Splintered side, and it seems to be that the two main forces when it comes to factions are Divinity and High Power from what it seems so far.
Absolutely, no question about that. Because listen, Divinity's got the gold, and then you've got High Power that's really showing that they've got a lot of power. So those are points that I'm sure we'll talk about with the Stompers. Cheap plug, a little after 3:00 Eastern time. So if you're not doing anything and you're bored, tune in because I am sure that there'll be a lot of people that'll want to talk. But I got more comments because I'm just going to fire them off here. Sabre, I hope you watch. And yeah, we could hang out if you're cool enough. To test your coolness, what's your social security number? Now,
let's see.
Well, what he really should have asked is what's your bank account number? What's your checking account number? What's your credit card number? Right? That'd have been better, right? People would have been, let me go to his bank account now and go order.
Last 4 digits are 8008. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Let me make sure I put that in now. Let me type that in. And he also says, oh, look. Who it is, the broken one, AJC. Listen, kiddo, I know. You can't handle a rib from real competition. I just thought you needed a rib since yours is broken. Ooh, somebody's going and kind of blurring the line there. The fourth wall's been broken there. Ego's got a lot that they've had broken now.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Me either, but I can tell you what I've seen on DBW TV. Colin Graves is doubting himself. You've got the Blaze, Ace Christian, basically disowned by his father. Roland Havoc, the one man who's kind of the voice of sanity there, lost his prized possession of 1 year, the World Extreme Championship. I mean, you've got a lot of question marks there. You've even got Mr. Judgment's girlfriend there, kind of. I think Mr. Judgment even said
yes, Miss Ariel. I'm actually interested to see how that goes.
Oh, you know what? Listen, I'm sure we'll talk about that here on Sportswire one of these days. I have to say, that's a stay tuned there. And Mr. Tech says, yeah, I can be a monster. Everybody got a glimpse of that at Danger Zone. Yes, we definitely saw that. Yep, go ahead.
And that's what I mean, Tex. Like, in that I Quit match, You single-handedly basically gift wrapped the win to Graves.
Yep.
It's like, so that just begs the question: do you really think that Graves could have gotten that win on his own? I think not. Otherwise, why would he usher in Big Tex to do what he did? Like, is he not man enough to fight his own battles? Was the battle simply too much for him to overcome? I don't know. I'm not Graves. I'm not the reporter asking him these questions.
Well, you know what? As somebody that basically covers all this stuff, maybe one day we'll get Big Tex in the chair. Maybe one day we'll get Mr. Graves. I mean, if Mr. Tex wants to come on, I'm sure we could make time for a big man like Big Tex, and maybe we can talk to Big Tex and ask him his opinion on these things. What do you think about that, sir?
I honestly say bring him on. Like I said, yes, his mind is clouded. He's running with the wrong crowd, but yeah, we have a bright star in Big Tex.
We definitely do, but you know what? Maybe one day we'd like to see him in this chair. You know, I've got an interesting comment here before I get to something else I want to ask you, sir. And that is from this individual who has an interesting comment, which I was thinking the same thing when I saw that battle royal for the Anarchy Championship at World War. And when are we getting that one-on-one with you and Azrael? You know, we saw you guys. It was almost like the battle of the giants, the battle of the big men. It was almost like Donkey
to quote
Kong
a great wrestling commentator, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Well, I was trying to hype it up in different ways. I mean, you know, Godzilla and King Kong, you know, Holyfield and Lewis, Foreman and Ali, Rumble in the Jungle. I mean, Roman and Brock. I mean, you could go
Rocky
up
and
and down. Yeah, I was thinking Rocky, maybe Drago and Rocky, you know, something big. The Battle of the Giants almost, or as the famous tour it was in 1990 to 1991. That was the most famous tour in the history of thrash metal. They called it the Clash of the Titans. It was Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, and an up-and-coming band called Alice in Chains as the opening band. You know, you and Azrael could almost be the Clash of the Titans.
I mean, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And yes, I will admit, Azrael has been around the block. He's held his fair share, I'm sure. But again, new breed. New replaces the old. Azrael may have been this unstoppable force.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's met me. So watch your back, buddy.
Well, we'll certainly find out. And again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling here, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. And we are here with the Salisbury Psychopath. His name is the EBW Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion, Jackson Sabre. He is no saber-toothed tiger. If you want to follow him once again, you can do that here on a number of different platforms, including on YouTube at Jackson Sabre, TikTok at Jackson_Sabre, and on Instagram at official_Jackson_Sabre. And I'll have more coverage also tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I'll be here at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with the artist formerly known as the Black Fox, Jacob Young of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, who's embroiled in his own war with the Hardcore King, the Atomic freaking Titan, the only Grand Slam winner in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling history. And Mr. Fox, Mr. Young, is going to be here and talk about those things and some. So you will not want to miss what the artist formerly known as the Black Fox, Jacob Young, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, to address the Atomic freaking Titan and some. Wednesday, a little after 3 o'clock, the Stompers, Rob Blade and Richie Blanco. We're going to talk all things EBW, DBW, Chaos Conspiracy, plus who knows what else is on those guys' mind. Thursday night, we have XCW coverage, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I know Mr. Black is going to be tuned into that one because Julian Void Jacobs is in the house, and we have had a void without XCW coverage. He is live. He is going to talk about his own war of words and his feud with up-and-coming Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, one half of those XCW Tag Team Champions, the first real wrestler, Mr. Justin Parsley. He is here live 10 o'clock, and I believe at that same time, same bat channel, a slew of stars from the IMF and more as they get ready for their first ever live show called IMF Winter Clash. You will not want to miss all of that here on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams. If you're on Instagram, give me a follow at the Sports Report 2021. Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Over 500 likes already on Facebook. So like my page on Facebook, because unfortunately I can't share all into my groups on Facebook anymore. So I can't invite anybody. So if you want to invite people to like Sportswire Radio, go do that, because Facebook has retarded blocking abilities. I have no idea why. But in the meantime, we are here with Mr. Jackson
the
Sabre.
social network.
Yep, it definitely does. But I got a ton of comments here directed at you. So let me get to them here so I can catch my breath.
Let's hear these puppies bark.
Big Tech says, name the place and time. I will message you after the show. If you want, I don't know if we're friends on Facebook, but I'm on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021. Give me a message there. I will make that happen. High power ain't fill in the blanks. Sabre, you know the best teams are Divinity and Ego. Omen Black, when can you actually put on a good match and not look like a rookie? Then maybe you'll be worth my breath.
Whoa. Hey,
right
Jay, all right.
no?
Here's the thing. I never came after you. I'm just stating the facts. Because, again, think about it. Colin's having self-doubt. Ace hasn't really been on a roll in a while. You are, unfortunately, on the shelf. I mean, that's it sucks, but hey, sometimes life gives you lemons. But at the end of the day, like I said, it was about solidarity. And again, unfortunately, the only solidary groups that I am seeing in DBW that are actually worthwhile right now are High Power and Divinity.
High Power. Yeah, and we're getting High Power on Wednesday. High Power is here in the house with 2/3 of them in the stoppers. So I agree.
I mean, who knows? Maybe Ego can change my mind. I don't know. But as of this moment right now, November 27th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do not think that Ego is as great as it once was in DBW.
And I want to make this point clear before I get to a lot more comments, and I'm going to get to comments directed at you in a second. I will say this, and I said this on the air a few months ago. World War was going to be a make or break moment for the Blaze Ace Christian and the rest of Ego. That break moment happened at World War, because since then, Ego has been on a massive tailspin, and there's nothing to have an ego about, because Ego right now is empty-handed, and it looks like right now they could be heading for the exits.
Exactly. Ego was on top of the world. You had Roland Havoc,
the tag titles. You had
World Extreme title. Ego, longest reigning tag team champions.
Yep. And you had the Blaze Ace Christian join. You had Ariel join. I mean, you had everything that looked like this was going to be the group to run roughshod over DBW for the months and years to come. And now, to me, they look like they're limping to be a footnote in DBW history. They're limping right now.
Thank you. I could not have put it any better myself.
And Xena says, the lovely Xena says she's enjoying this chat. Well, you definitely will enjoy it, and I definitely sure
yes, it's a chat between two intellectuals. What would not be fun about this?
Well, she probably is looking at it like, wow, there's actually people that tune into these shows. Because some people that I know, I have friends of mine who say, wow, you're still doing this? I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it for 5 years. And people go, wow, I didn't really realize you had anybody that tunes in and listens. But that's here nor there. I want to say hello to my buddy coming on Friday, the IMF World Champion, the popular heel monster himself, Mr. Soldier GP. Recently celebrated an anniversary with his wife, his 15-year anniversary. So I wish him a happy anniversary. I also want to wish a happy birthday coming up here to a few people. First of all, I have to do this. I want to wish a happy birthday to my very good buddy out of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, Mr. Joseph Rosas, another big man. Could definitely be a big guy that could maybe certainly pack on some matches or two with Mr. Sabre and maybe Mr. Azrael. And I want to wish Mr. Rosas a happy birthday. He turns 26 years old. And in my 5-year career, he was the first guest I ever had on. He was the only time I ever did a show on the road was his house. So I definitely want to appreciate Mr. Rosas, and I definitely look forward to seeing Mr. Rosas next week in the friendly confines of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. So Mr. Rosas, I hope you're having a happy birthday. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you for all of your support and friendship over the 5 years of Sportswire Radio. And also want to wish a happy birthday coming up this Thursday to my guest last Monday in your chair, the owner and founder of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, Mr. Josh Allen. It's his birthday coming up Thursday. I want to make sure we wish him a very happy 24, just like the TV show. So happy birthday, Mr. Allen, and we'll see you soon. Other than that, shut up. He says about that to Omen. Thank you, AJ. Means a lot coming from you, brother. No problem, Bone Shakers. Shake up the great work. Now, Mr. Van Hansen is here live, and he's got a couple things to say. Hey, it's that dude that felt to cheat but also lose. What do you want to say to Van Hansen?
Cheating. Hey, listen, I'm not the one that had to use a chair. Yes, I will admit I brought it into the ring, but notice I never used it on you until you used it on me. I never threw him into that chair. He drop kicked me into that chair. So, how does it feel to have a tainted victory, Van? That's all I'm going to ask you.
He's going to feel, though, that he won the match.
Possibly, but hey, there's one thing that you got to know. When you see a conclusion like that, there's always that question in the back of the victor's mind. Could I do it again if he actually did kick out? Could I actually beat him if there were no shenanigans? And in my honest opinion, I don't think he could. But you know what? Hey, I'll get my comeuppance.
Some may say, though, to the victor comes the spoil, though.
Victor spoils. Here's the thing: spoils never stay the victors for long, because they're never the victor forever.
What do you think Van Hansen's chances will be against the It Factor Cyrus?
I mean, Cyrus isn't as spry as he used to be, but Van Hansen is also kind of, I don't know, hit or miss. It depends on where you see him. I'd say he's got about a 33% chance. Maybe a 45 if I'm being generous.
So is that your version of Steiner math?
Oh, no, please. I'm not a college professor.
That was a good one. Touche. But you're not impressed, though, with the It Factor Cyrus's wins over the likes of Ecstatic or even the Bitcoin billionaire Chase Wakefield? You're not impressed with those wins? Not impressed?
The guy that claimed for so long, I'm going to leave DBW with the belt. I'm going to leave DBW with the belt. And he left with nothing. And then he came crawling back because apparently he was not good enough. So I'll let Mr. Wakefield's actions and how his words have aged like milk.
And certainly Mr. Wakefield, certainly anybody could push over him because you might weigh more on your pinky than what he weighs coming out to the ring.
Dude, I'm worried about exhaling because I think he's going to go flying out of the building.
Well, that's almost like here in New York tomorrow. It's supposed to be like 15-mile-an-hour winds, and we might be worried that Mr. Wakefield would get blown away from stepping outside, you may want to say. So,
I mean, it'd be a weird-looking kite, but...
Well, I have been in a kite once, and I'm certainly not going to attempt that again. I know Mr. Wakefield won't, but let me get to plenty of more comments. Mr. GP wants to say, AJ, watch what you say about my brother. Well, Friday, they're going to be here in this chair, and I'll be very curious about what happens. AJ, you funny sack of gingivitis. I would love to know if anybody has actually gotten gingivitis. That'd be really an interesting.
I don't know, and I don't think I want to know.
Maybe I can ask the lovely Xena. That'll be an excellent, I'm sure, first date, actual conversation starter there. Oh, she'd probably be real mad about that. But let's be honest. At this point, you can't even hold your breath now due to the broken rib that you have. You can duck me all you want, AJ. It's a typical ego tactic. But I'm going to say, Omen, real quick, ego right now, they seem like they're limping to almost Splitsville. They seem like they're limping to irrelevancy, a quote you used earlier on in the show. But we'll have to see. But interesting comment here. I might have to give Azriel a call.
I'm surprised that guy even has a phone.
But I wouldn't argue with that guy.
Well, you're not me.
Maybe so, but I still wouldn't do it. Tell your brother you have respect, then I won't have to hurt his little feelings. Omen Black versus the Boogie.
Omen Black,
the Boo get. Oh, Omen
I think
Black,
you're trying to spell booger breath.
I see. Well, it didn't come out right.
No, it did not.
The Boo Get Brief Man of the Wild West versus the Bone Shaker. If you keep running your jabba jaws about things you know nothing about. That reminds me, there's a line that used to be, it was in one of the Van Halen now. I'm trying to think what it was. What's understood doesn't need to be discussed. That's what he's trying to say, but it didn't come out that way. Ego, don't run. We face competition. You're just not that guy. Video proves it. I watch the content and I get bored very fast. It's sad that the kids on Trampled are better.
Whoa, okay.
The kids on the trampoline are better. Well, he's trying to say that WCE and those type of companies are better. But that's for a discussion for a different time. I'm not going to get into who's better. Last Bone Shaker, ain't nobody scared of you. Better chill. Well, Cyrus certainly proved that, and certainly the Stompers did. That's the best you could come up with in the long amount of time you had to type. I expected better for one moment. I expected Ego to come up with better material. AJ, you're as good of a wrestler. Oh wow! I don't even know if I don't. I mean, that's a real burn.
Can you even put that on the internet?
I don't even know if I should say this individual's name on Sportswire because of what he did. I mean,
next slide.
Okay,
that was for the best.
Wish him well. AJ, once you heal up and can go, how about you wrestle the popular monster Soldier GP? Now that's how you talk sport. Okay, let me ask you a question, though. Now, I know we're going to see you coming up December the 2nd in EBW out in Gloucester, New Jersey. So for those that are listening and watching, talk about what we could see as you're our reigning defending Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion.
Honestly, I can't say much. I guess everybody's going to have to buy a ticket. Watch, as Cyrus somewhat eloquently likes to put, you can watch greatness. Go buy a ticket. Gloucester, New Jersey, EBW, Winter Warfare. See you there.
And we'll definitely see you there, and I'm sure we'll see some DBW stars there. We'll see some DBW stars there was my point. And what does it mean to you to be the Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion?
What it means to me. I'm not gonna lie, because while I was a different person, I was training. And unfortunately, I ran into probably the smuggest, most punchable face I have ever met in my entire life. His name was Ronnie Hoax. Now, unfortunately, he's not with us anymore for me to beat the crap out of, but EBW management decided to make a belt in his honor. They decided to create a championship in his honor that was originally won by the Dark Savior, Thomas Jacob. And we actually had a bright star take over the division for a long time. The Red Dragon, Max Knight.
Okay, I've heard of Max Knight. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, hell of a firecracker. That's all I'm going to say. But unfortunately, due to circumstances, Max Knight was not able to compete. So we had a match to determine the new Hoax Memorial Champion. And as it so happens, moi walked away with the gold.
Well, we could certainly see that piece of gold. Let me get to some other people. Speaking of gold, we want to wish our new ROEW champion of the world, the good guy, CJ Black. He is here. And if you haven't got a chance to watch ROEW, they're out in the state of Michigan. You can watch them at ROEW Backyard Wrestling. They had their historic anniversary show, and it was a phenomenal card. In the main event, CJ Black had defeated JX for the ROEW World Championship. So we congratulate him. We wish him well. We say hello to him as well. And you can stay tuned for some ROEW coverage coming up in the next few weeks, because I think we have two wrestlers that sort of last week got into a war of words, and apparently they may come on to confront each other. So stay tuned. I'm going to hold that thought, because I'm going to let you tune in the next couple of shows on Sportswire to find out who it was. And Omen certainly congratulates CJ Black. Absolutely. Definitely want to congratulate him on winning the title. Soldier GP, I will let you know, because I got bigger fish to fry and something to accomplish, but I got respect for you, so I'll definitely like an Omen Black. Hit a treadmill, then talk, because honestly, I'm not. That's not fair on the treadmill. Sabre, this person here seems to know you, so we say.
Oh, yeah, them. Let's move on. I don't know who they are. They just somehow, no matter how many times I delete my socials, no matter how many times I changed. So
are you telling me that you have a stalker? You have a stalker?
I don't know. I don't know who they are. Why are you here? Why? Leave me alone.
Maybe they want to talk to you. Maybe they want to address you.
All right. Well, you've got the floor. If you got anything to say, maggot, say it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll certainly move on to that. Omen and Soldier congratulate CJ Black. Absolutely. Who's a Soldier DP? Sounds like a bum to me. Ain't that popular. And the only thing monstrous is the nappy hair, high power walks around with. Well, the IMF has a big following. They're pretty popular too because they've got almost 2,000 subscribers and they got their first ever live show coming up on December the 16th. We're going to be talking about that here Friday. So let's cut the guys some slack. They're doing a great job out there too. But I want to ask you a question because we spoke a lot about DBW. We spoke about this match that was unfortunate that went against you with Van Hansen. We talked a little bit about the Anarchy situation. You and Azriel kind of locked in. We've talked about some different people you don't like Cyrus and certainly Mr. Cassidy, Mr. Pearson. But I want to ask you, as you've come on here in a short amount of time, what are your goals here in DBW?
My goals in DBW, well, I mean, what other goal is there to be in a wrestling federation than to be the greatest in that federation? Now, I'm not going to hype myself up as saying this is going to be an easy feat because
not with this roster in DBW.
Exactly.
We have a roster.
Evidently, it's not
one of the biggest rosters in this sport. I mean, there are people competing from all over the tri-state area, and they're just hoping to get a spot on this roster.
Exactly, but the way I see it, it's the boss battle of Mortal Kombat. What was it? Not that Armageddon. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat Armageddon.
Funny you said that because I actually
the giant tower in the background. You got everybody surrounding it. But at the end of the day, only one person can grab the greatest power in the universe. And unfortunately, it's not Mr. Judgment for the foreseeable future. It's going to be me. It may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but just know in the coming future, there is going to be gold from DBW in Jackson Sabre's possession.
Okay, now I appreciate that you want gold. There was a wrestler that came on Thursday's show in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, Armageddon Shane Davidson, that didn't want gold. So I appreciate the fact that you want gold. But I look at this roster in DBW and I look at the champions. It would be easy to kind of more or less say, hey, I want to go after a guy you saw at Navon McDonald. Cyrus, okay, I'll give you that much. But to say Mr. Judgment, the man that arguably I would say is the most dominant big man in this sport, you sure that eventually you could topple somebody like Judgment, a man that is a legitimate main eventer across anywhere he goes? Legitimately. It's not just
no final boss is unbeatable. It just takes the right player. It just takes the right player to beat that final boss and platinum the game that is known as DBW. Now, like I said earlier, this is not going to be a easy feat. Mr. Judgment has shown his dominance throughout his reign and even before then. But at the same time, you can't be the best forever. You can't be top dog forever. And who knows, maybe it isn't me. Maybe it's somebody else who's young, who's hungry.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, listen, Brandon Castelli tried. He tried, and he came up short. His son couldn't get the job done. Scorpion the Assassin ain't coming up anywhere near soon. I mean, I look at this roster in DBW.
I mean, Scorpion teams, I'm surprised you can get up from anything. But
well, I was going to say, though, that I look at this roster in DBW, and you say that nothing lasts forever. I think right now, with the shape, with the position that he's in, with the heretics behind him, with the mindset, the moveset, Mr. Judgment could be locked in, and he could have Judgment Day to be the final boss here in this company. I could say maybe for the next decade right now. There's nobody I see right now that in the foreseeable future that is going to topple this man and take that prize, the most prized possession in this sport.
I respectfully disagree, but hey, who knows? Like I said, I'm confident, but I'm not delusional. Who knows? Maybe it's not me. But just know, maybe I'm not the one to topple Judgment, but just know that DBW World Championship will be mine, regardless of who holds it.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. And let me read off some comments here. Xena wants to tell us here that she thinks it takes a little bit more than a certain player to beat the boss. I think that it also takes circumstances amongst others. Okay, fair comment. I certainly could agree with that. and I'm not going to argue. And whose bone are you shaking? Wrong podcast, Bud. Plug Talk is on a different website.
I think we're watching two different shows here, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's what he says. Whose bone are you shaking? And yeah, wrong podcast, Bud. Plug Talk is on a different website. He's not. He's talking about Mr. Pearson. He's not talking about us.
I'm paying attention, but that's what I mean. It's like you've got you and me, and then we've got Omen Black and the Bone Shaker. But let's be honest, what show do you really want to watch right now?
Well, I want to get to what the people have to say. AJ put you on blast and out you in the ground. You keep going, huh, Omen? Could we see Judgment versus Sabre? Well, I mean, is that what you want, though? Do you want Judgment? I mean, you talked about...
The only thing stopping Jackson Sabre versus Mr. Judgment is Mr. Judgment.
Absolutely. Now, that's
the only thing that's stopping it.
And
it's
the man...
understandable, but...
Well, listen, like I said, look at the man's size. Look at the shape the man's in. Look at what the man has done. And he's not just, to me, the final boss in DBW. He is the final boss in this sport. You know, everybody talks about Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns been champion for over 3 years. Everybody talks about MJF. You mentioned Jay White. Josh Alexander at one time in Impact Wrestling. I mean, listen, Matt Cardone, everybody talks about him in the Indies. You know,
Nick Aldis in the NWA. But there's one thing that always happens. Somebody always ends up being better.
But
it's just a matter of time.
But this is why I bring all those people up. They haven't defended and wrestled as many times as Mr. Judgment has. They haven't gone up against the kind of competition, the kind of opponents that Mr. Judgment has. They haven't had the moveset. They haven't had the abilities that Mr. Judgment has. And they have not had anywhere near the kind of runs as champions as Mr. Judgment has had. And that's why Mr. Judgment, ladies and gentlemen, as the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station, your voice of a wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce, Mr. Judgment is at the top right now in this sport. He's at the top of his game. He is in his prime, and he's primed and poised to stay there well into this decade. Let me get some more comments here as we get to the rest of the show here. Sabre, I will give you this, sir. You have something, and maybe you could defeat Judgment, but that line is long. It's a long line. Listen, you're going to have to listen, Brandon Castelli, the Mauler, you know, who knows what happens with him? The Blaze Ace Christian has to figure out, can he face his father? I mean, you got a long list of talent. What happens with Roland Havoc? I mean, Jackson Snow you mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of people here that are going to want to get in line. Let me get some more comments. He is and always will be the final boss of DBW. Brotherhood, hashtag. Duly noted. Just watch out for the tables when Chase is around. And speaking of that, he is here.
Oh, yeah. That's another reason why I don't respect him.
Aaron Jones is best friend here. Chase Wakefield is here.
Please tell me this is a joke. Please,
no,
is this a rib?
He's really here.
Like, am I just not in on something?
And he loves Aaron. He loves Aaron.
Like, yet you've seen it. Aaron Jones, he sat down to hold the door, but yet he helped Brandon Castelli into the ring. I'm not sure you do that to your best friend. So who knows? Maybe Mr. Wakefield has some mental problems.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe he's got something in his eye. Maybe he's got dry eye. Maybe, you know, he didn't know. Maybe he thought they looked alike. And maybe he said, you know what? I didn't realize, you know, that was his mistake. You know, sometimes friends make mistakes. And it may be in this case that happened to Mr. Wakefield. That's all.
But I'm sorry. I'm going to have to decline Mr. Wakefield's offer because I don't want to end up on the news for a manslaughter charge.
Ooh, manslaughter charge. Boy, criminal charges here on Sportswire Radio.
For God's sakes, I hit an uppercut on this guy. I'm pretty sure I'm going to decapitate him. He's got no muscle holding that head on his neck.
I mean, could be. You know, it certainly could be a point to be made. I mean, there is certainly that possibility. I mean,
so take some creatine, get a life, and then come see me. All right.
So are you actually here live on Sportswire Radio encouraging Mr. Wakefield possibly to take illegal enhancement performing things to rather improve Mr. Wakefield's muscle and frame? Is that what you're trying to do?
Whatever he's doing, it isn't working. So
okay, well, you know what?
I'm not going to tell him Hey, I'm merely giving suggestions. I am not his father. I am not his boss. I cannot tell him what to do.
Well, maybe Aaron. You know what? Aaron could maybe give him that advice. Maybe he can ask Aaron.
Maybe, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. Sorry, Chase. Maybe next time.
Well, we'll certainly have to find out. Just watch out for the tables when Chase Rummy read that commentary. Sabre, honestly, coming from me, Judgment is a different man right now, and I got mad respect for you, but you're not ready for Judgment. You know, I like you, but I'm with AJ in this one. Judgment right now is a different man right now. You know, I look at Judgment every time I go to DBW TV. By the way, cheap plug, dominating Backyard Wrestling on Facebook, YouTube, dominating Breakout Wrestling, and on Twitter, DBW Wrestling. And by the way, if you have a chance, go out and buy a DBW shirt. I look at Judgment just in his face, just in his mannerisms. He's different right now. He's different.
I mean, I will admit he's probably the best he's ever been. But AJ, and I mean this sincerely, I have mutual respect. I don't care if you think I'm not ready. I don't care if anybody thinks that I'm not ready. All that does is fuel me more and more to rub that championship in every single doubter's face when I do topple the giant known as Mr. Judgment.
Okay, fair enough here. I certainly will have to see. Time will certainly tell. We have certainly big shows coming up in DBW. We also will see you coming up December the 2nd, the last EBW show of the year, I believe, out there in Gloucester, New Jersey. Now, I know I probably butchered that name correct, but I tried.
Yeah, it's Jersey. Who cares?
Well, you know what? I can't fully knock Jersey, but I certainly will say if you are out in the area, if you are in the Jersey area, the Pennsylvania area, or the Maryland area, and you want to see our Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion, Jackson Sabre, the Salisbury Psychopath, go out there and see him, and there'll be a number of different people from DBW that'll probably be there. We'll see some Ego members. I'm sure we'll see the likes of the Stompers and High Power. We will see just some Chaos Conspiracy, though you may not agree with that. We'll see probably a number of stars in EBW that will be here from DBW. So December 2nd, if you're in the area, go out and buy a ticket while they're still there. As we come up toward the end of the show, and certainly you have definitely been an interesting guest. You have said a lot, and there's certainly a lot to talk about here with you in the future that I look forward to seeing in DBW and EBW TV. What do you want to say as your final thoughts to management in DBW or to anybody else in the locker room watching here?
Main thing to management is just watch, take it in, and I know that eventually you will make the right choice when it comes to Jackson Sabre. And for everybody in the locker room, if you doubt me, I'm not scared of you. I don't care if you're Roland Havoc. I don't care if you're Colin Graves. I don't care if Damien Fatale wants to rise from the grave and face me himself.
Ooh. Interesting.
At the end of the day, everybody's going to end up a cross on the hill.
Ooh. Cross on the hill. Damien Fatale. Maybe that's the final thoughts that we're going to remember. The Salisbury Psychopath. Mr. Jackson Sabre. And remember him for. Till the next time he comes live to Sportzwire Radio. He has certainly said a lot. He is certainly intending to do a lot. He has a list of names. He has targets. He has goals. And we'll have to watch them here coming up. And before I move to closing thoughts, this person wants to say, I believe in you, Sabre.
Oh, my God. I mean, thank you, but please get a life. Stop trying to live vicariously through me.
But what's wrong with that, though? I believe in you, Sabre. You don't like that?
Trust me, if you've had the interactions with this individual that I had, you'd run as far away as you possibly can.
You got this?
Well, yeah, obviously I've got this. Obviously. But I don't know, you're just gonna have to tune into DBW.
Okay, well, I certainly will be tuning in to DBW. And I certainly want other people to do that here before we sign off one more time on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, Facebook on Dominating Backyard Wrestling's page and on Twitter. It's X, Twitter, depending on what you call. I still call it Twitter. I guess
Yeah,
it could be
everybody
X.
does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still calling it Twitter, although it's X, but whatever at this point. DBW Wrestling, go out there. I think they still have a DBW page. You know, Cyrus still, for whatever reason, quotes the DBW pages on Twitter, and I still do as well. So I don't know if management still realizes it's existing, but that's here nor there. Omen Black likes you, and he says Sabre and Omen could definitely be friends and could talk about dead people. Well, you know what? I'll give you a running joke, inside joke. You really want inside jokes real quick? I actually live across. My neighbors are dead people. I live across the street from a cemetery. It's kind of my running. That's my running joke. People always go, "Well, you know, how do you feel about that?" And I said, "Well, you know, at least I know where I'm going across the street after I croak. At least I'll have, you know, a front row seat. You know, I'll be going right across the street. I don't have to go far. They won't have to move like the moving trucks. They won't have to take the body and just, you know, go miles away. All they have to do is just, you know, find it.
Well, I mean, that depends on the funeral home, but yeah.
Well, I actually happen to know the people that run the actual cemetery, so I'm pretty sure I could get the, you know, a front row seat, and I'm sure they'll find a plot for me since I live literally across the street. But that's kind of you know, kind of funny there. But that's here nor there. Yeah, I always tell that people. In fact, I do a lot of stuff in England, and one of the wrestlers at the time was a world champion. He was holding 2 world championships. His name was Disciple, and he said, "You know, that was some intro you did." And he kind of broke character when I did the intro, like for you tonight. And he goes, "You know, what do your neighbors think about that?" And I said, "Well, my neighbors are dead people." And he goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, all right, never mind." He's like, "Never mind." So it's kind of that
yeah. What else do you say to that? Like
nothing. That's why it was funny. And I love you, Sabre. So, you know, happy holidays, huh? Happy holidays.
Yeah. Happy holidays indeed.
Well, I'm sure we could certainly say that about, obviously, Miss Xena as well. But you know what? I want to give you the floor now. I want to give you some closing thoughts and anything else you want to plug, share, or say. And I turn it over to you, my friend. I definitely enjoyed this. I look forward to having you on here again. So
in all honesty, nothing I can say to plug myself will top what you've done here. I mean, yeah, it's all down there. I can't exactly say anything that hasn't already been said. But just, except for one thing for the DBW, EBW, whatever federation's locker room. Watch your backs.
Oh, you know what? I think we will be watching backs. And until then, though, I'll be watching Jackson Sabre on YouTube at Jackson Sabre. TikTok, which I got to really work on. That's the one thing. I have Threads, but I should have did TikTok instead of Threads. Jackson_Sabre. Instagram, official_Jackson_Sabre. And again, if you want to support DBW, I can't stress this enough. Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling, YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, Twitter at DBW Wrestling, and certainly follow and support those groups. We'll see Thursday Night Thunder Punch episodes coming up real soon. We'll have another show ahead, and you'll see a lot more DBW news ahead in the near and distant future. So before I get out of here, I have one more comment. Sabre, Roland would dog walk you, and you want to talk a big game. When I heel up, although I think he meant to say HEAL because heel is, you know, the heel on the back of your foot. Yeah, it was kind of funny, right? I heel up, but what about me versus you? And let's see how ready you are.
Okay. You want your wings clipped a second time? Let's clip them a second time. Let's go.
Well, what's that song? I Believe I Can Fly. Well, we'll have to see if Mr. AJ believes he can
AJ certainly thinks he can fly, but
stay tuned. Listen, stay tuned. The hope springs eternal, as some may say. But I enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to watching you on Thursday Night Thunder Punch. I'm looking forward to having you come back on Sportswire Radio.
And I have enjoyed this, Tom. You've been a wonderful host. And like I've said earlier, probably the only intellectual in a sea of idiots that I've talked to in the past week.
Well, you know what? That's certainly interesting there, because I know Simon Bartholomew certainly, I have nothing on Simon Bartholomew, so I certainly have nothing on Mr. Bartholomew, but I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. And Omen Black wants to get the final comment, and so we'll give it to him because it's his show. He can't speak or use proper grammar. Why is this such a shocker? That reminds me of when I was in law class back in college, and for whatever reason, like my professor at the time would always make sure well, you didn't use the right grammar. You didn't use, and he would like basically say it like Omen just said, and it would always
Yeah.
stuck in my head.
It always feels like in college when you're writing an essay, it's like,
Well, that's
Like,
why I'm here and not in a classroom somewhere or not in a law room. That's because I'm a dunce, and that's why clearly
and
I'm
that's
only
why
giving
I'm
you
throwing
a-
people around a ring.
That's true. That makes two of us. Listen, from birds from a flock certainly feather, or feather like a flock, but whatever that might be, it doesn't make a difference. Thank you so much for the time. I'm looking forward to speaking with you real soon. I'm looking forward to watching you this weekend in EBW. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Thursday Night Thunder Punch, and keep up the good work. And certainly we'll continue to see why they call you the Salisbury Psychopath.
Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we were here with the EBW Ronnie Hoax Memorial Champion, Mr. Jackson Sabre, the Salisbury Psychopath, and he had a lot to say tonight when it came to all things related to DBW, EBW, plus much, much more. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. And if you're on sportswireradio.org, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming here. You'll hear Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer. You'll hear some other jingles, and I'll be back here tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 Central Time, with the artist formerly known as the Black Fox, Jacob Young, to address the Atomic Freaking Titan, the TBW Hardcore Champion, their only Grand Slam champion in their company's history, and the Hardcore King. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. Thank you.